Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to The Backroad. I am Ethan Levesque, better known online as the Mainah Man. In this podcast, I share the strategies and principles that have shaped my life goals in business, marketing, and creativity in order to help you build meaningful relationships with your audience, no matter the platform. Coming up on The Backroad, I'll share the story about how I came up with my company name and why it took me an entire month to do so. I'll talk your ear off about what it takes to prep branding materials like business cards, brochures, and signage for an expo, and why slapping your logo on everything isn't enough to stand out. And I'll talk shop by sharing 3 tips to keep your brand visuals consistent and recognizable. All of that and more just around the corner. Welcome to episode 33. Today's theme is identity. No, not the kind you need to prove to the bouncer because your facial hair hasn't grown in yet. The kind that defines who you are, what you stand for, and how others perceive you, whether you're an individual or a business. Identity is what takes you from being another face in the crowd to being the one that everyone remembers. Everyone likes a legend at a party. Research from the Harvard Business Review shows that 64% of consumers believe shared values are the main reason they trust a brand. Your identity tells people what to expect, whether it's unwavering reliability, bold creativity, or the fact that you answer your damn phone when they call you. But before we dive into how identity impacts your branding, let's take a step back and examine the different forms identity can take. Let's start with your personal identity. Your personal identity plays a crucial role in shaping your decisions, relationships, and long-term goals. When you have a clear sense of who you are, it becomes easier to navigate the challenges that life throws your way. A defined identity helps you focus on what truly matters, guiding you toward choices that align with your core values and your ambitions. When it comes to your business, identity is the foundation of everything you do. It's more than just a logo and a slogan. It's how you communicate with customers. It's how you solve their problems. It's how you earn their loyalty and respect. Research from Edelman's Trust Barometer, fun name, reveals that 81% of consumers need to trust a brand before making a purchase. A consistent and authentic business identity is key to fostering that trust and creating long connections with your audience. Your identity also extends to the impact you have on your community, whether it's supporting local causes, being transparent in your business practices and how you operate, or showing up when it matters. It's about standing by your values and proceeding in reflection of them. People are naturally drawn to those who are genuine and care about the big picture, so every small gesture you make will harbor deeper connection. Identity isn't just a concept, it's the key to manifesting. With a strong identity, you can navigate decisions with confidence, stand out in a good way, and create the kind of meaningful relationships that pay off. But don't just take me at my word. Take me at my experience. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, shall we? Let's rewind to 2017, just before I graduated college, back when I didn't have 5 years of marketing and commercial experience and had no business experience aside from what I had observed from my parents growing up, and no social media followers other than the 120 I gained in high school. Just a video degree and a dream. I was out to build a Maine-based production company. At the time, my friend and fellow wedding shooter Eric was my partner in crime. And while we knew what we wanted to do, weddings and commercials, figuring out who we were, what we were about, and what we would want to be known for was a completely different animal. We thought we could get together and work out what our name should be in one easy late-night brainstorm. But little did we know, that was a very tall order. Next on CBS. Our quest for a name that could sum up everything we stood for in just a few words quickly became a month-long endeavor. Luckily, we had a ritual. After clocking out of our late night shifts at our part-time jobs around 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., it was always late, we'd head to Dysart's restaurant and hash ideas out over pot roast and strawberry shortcake. The first night, we thought we'd be in and out. Like I said, naming the business is simple, right? Shouldn't take that long. Buzzer noise! 'Twas deceptively complicated. We wanted something memorable, but not cheesy. Specific, but not limiting. Luxurious, but not out of reach. We threw out names for hours, but nothing ever stuck. And eventually, the sun beamed in through the windows, and we realized our efforts were not working. It was now clear that if we were going to do this, specifically if we were going to do this right, there were a lot of conversations that needed to be had. Because as it just so happens, when you're trying to build something personal to you, every detail matters. After that first night, we understood that before we could settle on a name, we had to settle out who we were. It probably would have been an easier process for just one of us to complete. Maybe we should have built two different companies. But as collaborators from two completely different walks of life with different perspectives, it was hard. It was hard to do. I grew up in small-town Maine, land of hard work, charity work, and neighborly work. And Eric came from, put simply, somewhere else. This meant we often clashed in the process of developing our identity. And who can blame us, right? We cared enough to speak up. We weren't just starting a company together. We were building something that reflected our character. Despite how much we disagreed, by the end of our second meeting, we noticed that there were three things that united us: authenticity, creativity, and integrity. I think that's mainly because that's how we saw ourselves, right? We were open, real, honest, and well-liked. We were good at problem solving, writing, conceptualization, and paying attention to details. We were reliable, generous, flexible, and professional. Right? That's why we worked well together. We agreed. So of course it would make sense for our company to reflect those values. And that's when we came up with our company philosophy, the pillars of our company mission. We are effective. We tell stories that deserve attention through intentional visuals, optimized writing, and psychology principles. We are efficient. We demonstrate strong main values, fierce moral code, determined work ethic, and transparent authenticity. We are empathetic. We commit our skills, resources, and privileges to benefit partners, empower teams, and contribute to the community. Effective, efficient, and empathetic. Just about everything I was striving to be, then and now. Now that we knew who we were, it was time to revisit our name. 2 weeks in, and we still had no ideas. The only thing we could agree upon was that we should tackle it one word at a time. One word for each value of our philosophy. So we started with effective, the word that defined what we did as creatives, as videographers. So were we a studio or a workshop? Did we make productions or films? Were we cinematographers or were we storytellers? We threw out as many industry buzzwords as we could think of, but eventually one word fit the bill. Media. Broad enough to accommodate video, photo, graphics, and other various mediums of storytelling, and common enough for people to have a rough previous knowledge of. I'm so sorry for flipping you off. If you're watching the YouTube video, I accidentally pointed with my middle finger when I meant to put up my index. The next thing we needed to showcase was our empathy, and bonus points if we could also describe who we serve. So we wanted a name that connected us to New England and Maine without putting us in a geographical box. That's when we found the word northern. It worked on multiple levels, right? In Maine, we're from the northern part. In New England, we're located in the northern part. And in the contiguous USA, we're located in the northern part. Right? Northern gives us the flexibility to grow without feeling tied down to one town or one state. Lastly, we wanted something to represent our efficiency. Something that conveyed strength, longevity, and reliability. We quickly agreed that a tree felt like the perfect metaphor, rooted, dependable, and a classic depiction of growth. But the debate over which tree, that lasted an entire week. Birch, too soft. Maple, too Canadian. Cedar, too awkward to say out loud. Sounds good, but in a New England accent, not so much. Northern Cedar Media. Northern Cedar! Doesn't quite flow off the tongue. I mean, it does, because it's fun and hilarious, but that's not exactly the vibe we're going for. How about oak? Yeah, that's the one. Woo! Northern Oak Media. Easy to say, carries the weight of everything we care about, and doesn't confine us. Now, Northern Oak Media is here standing almost a decade later, and the mission to be effective, efficient, and empathetic continues. All this time, and the name still feels like home to me. Even when Eric left the company at the 2-year mark. Restructuring was a piece of cake, because I didn't have anything I wanted to change. We never had to compromise in our work together, because our mutual values guided every decision we made, and ultimately, every decision was made together. I agree with where we were. I agree with the future. And it didn't look any different alone than it did with a partner. In hindsight, I can see that the process of naming the business wasn't about finding the right words. It was about building a foundational identity for everything that came next to be built upon. This exercise also forced me to take a closer look at who I was as a person, in order to find myself as a businessman. I guess building a company has a funny way of holding up a mirror, because it not only reveals your strengths, but it reveals the areas where you need to grow, change, and maybe even reinvent yourself. As I navigated the challenges of entrepreneurship, I realized that embracing my own identity wasn't just a personal journey. It was an essential commitment to my company. It was for my company. The more we understand ourselves, the more we are able to align our values with our operations, make better decisions, and lead with clarity. So, that's how Northern Oak Media came to be named. This early stage of my company development reinforced to me that success isn't just about the skills we acquire, but about knowing who we are, truly, at our center. It wasn't an easy process, and it certainly wasn't quick, but every late night, every rejected idea, and every caloric coma was worth it. Because when you take the time to think out your business, you create something strong and honorable, like an oak tree. That's why this week's Earful explores what it means to evolve while staying true to yourself. Branding, branding, branding. It's that word that makes every business owner either give up from mental exhaustion or light up like they found the perfect paint for the office wall. Branding is the unsung hero of a business because branding is everything you frickin' do. It's not just your logo, it's the tone in which you write your emails. It's the format of your invoices. It's the feeling clients get when you offer them a can of Fresca. Branding is what makes your business memorable and magnetic, or if done poorly, forgettable and flat. I attended my first wedding expo within 12 weeks of establishing Northern Oak Media, and it was, to put it kindly, amateur hour! I mean, it took us 1 month to come up with our name. How the hell could we come up with an entire graphics package, booth display, website contract, pricing, and management system in just 3? I'll tell you how. We hired people to design the graphics and print materials in order to free us up to split the social and web needs with the document and software needs. We worked our butts off knowing at best we'd probably shoot par. And in the end, we ended up with some decent logos and brochures and business cards and signs, as well as a baseline website, a rough workflow, a 32-inch TV to play our portfolio, and a banner that strangely became so wrinkled it belonged in a pep rally at a senior living home. And we got 4 clients out of the effort. Not an extreme number by any means, but not unreasonable, just enough to break even with a little profit. So why did clients book with a company clearly so fresh and still learning? Because our identity was clear, even if the presentation wasn't perfect. We knew who we were. We knew what we could do. We knew what we could offer. We knew the answer to any question we were asked, and we knew exactly why we were the bride's best choice. Understanding your identity makes selling easier. When you're clear on who you are, you don't have to fake it. You're not scrambling to come up with a sales pitch or nervously explaining your pricing system. You're just doing it. Those 4 couples who chose us for their film chose us despite our rookie mistakes because they saw something real, something that fit their needs. It's a wedding. It's an intimate choice. They really had to trust us to make that decision. Branding is what makes sure you show up as your real, authentic self. Now, we attended the wedding show 3 years in a row, 2017, 2018, 2019, and through those years, we changed our booth a lot. We had to. It was quite terrible to first go around. But we always used the same brochures, brought the same energy, and made sure we had a screen to play our work. And every year, we booked clients. It was good. But by 2020, we had enough traction from our reviews, our website, and our paid marketing strategies to step away from the expo for a couple of years. Then insert COVID here, blah, blah, blah. Is it safe to go outside? Okay, cool. Our company's evolved. It's 2025. And now we're ready to return to the expo. But here's the problem. Our printed materials haven't been updated in 8 years. We've changed a lot since then. And considering our brochures haven't been fresh since the invention of fidget spinners, we clearly were going to need a full graphic update. Rebrand! Outdated branding sends a message, and it's not a good one like Hedwig delivers. It's a bad one from Scabbers, the little rat man with the busted pinky. Forbes says companies should revisit their branding every 3 to 5 years to ensure that it stays relevant. So 8 years is like showing up to your high school reunion in your prom dress. So we needed a new booth with new brochures and new business cards. Does that mean we need to hire someone again? Absolutely not. We're not a startup anymore. I learned how to do my own graphics a long time ago because paying people to do my Photoshop was getting a little pricey. And I'm already a video firm. I know photo. I had to learn how to do motion graphics. I figured it out. No outsourcing, no middlemen, just me, a whole lot of determination, and my new COO, Kyle. Say hi, Kyle. He edits this podcast. Turns out sometimes a partner's pretty helpful. Years of experience with design tools and 1,000 completed projects gave me the skills it took to bring our business to life in a modern way, while still honoring who we are. Turns out updating our materials is a piece of cake when you know what you're doing, and it's even easier when your identity hasn't changed. Evolved, of course, but inside, nothing is different. Northern Oak Media is still built on the same core values: effectiveness, efficiency, and empathy. Though we have grown enough to give our wedding division its own dedicated brand, Northern Oak Memories. Wink, wink. Rebranding might be a headache, but it offers a chance to reflect on the journey. I've seen how far we've come, and it is validating. Our materials now, they're sharper. Our workflow, smoother. Our pricing, straightforward and easy. Products, customizable. Services, streamlined. But at the heart of it all, we're still the same company we set out to be. One with authenticity, creativity, and integrity. And this time, our booth is exactly what it should be. It reflects those values. We're not slapping a banner on a wall and calling it a day. We're showcasing our best work on multiple 75-inch flat screens displayed on marble countertops with golden underglow. We make movies, so showing people exactly what we can create for them is the most obvious marketing ploy, right? It's successful. We already know it. We do it every day. So we need to steer into that as hard as we can. Our gimmick is no longer our good sportsmanship and our salesmanship or our flashy lights. It's a bouquet toss dartboard to give a bride something fun to do so their bored fiancé can fall in love with the drone footage. At its center, branding is about connection. In 8 years of business, Northern Oak Media's identity hasn't changed, but how we present it has. As Jeff Bezos famously said, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. When your branding aligns with who you are, it's more than a marketing tool, it's a reflection of your purpose. Great branding isn't just what people see, it's what they feel long after the moment has passed. It's not about perfection, it's about uniformity in every interaction. Because if your brand doesn't tell your story, someone else will. And you may not like their version. Well, we're almost out of the woods, but we're not there yet. Let's take a detour. What's new in the world of graphic design? Great question, but not quite the right one. The right question is what's old in the world of graphic design? Trends, they come and go. Styles fade, and a cutting edge eventually dulls. So what really matters is consistency. I've mentioned it 1,000 times already. And the only way to accomplish consistency is by going back to the basics, because nothing screams unprofessionalism like mismatched fonts and a logo that changes color and size depending on the platform you're using. Let's talk shop. First things first. Consistency means you need a brand guide. It's like a constitution that governs your visual identity. The guide includes details like how you want your logo used, what your exact font is, your color palette, and what size treatments you prefer. The guide should also be considered mandatory, which means you're going to have to set the expectation with everyone who has access to it that they follow the laws. I know one might think that that gives you no room for creativity, but it's quite the contrary. It's a foundation from which inspiration is built upon. Imagine walking into a coffee shop where every sign is a different color, the logo is not the one that was on the commercial, the cups are all different, and the staff uniforms clash with the overall vibe. Maybe feels a little chaotic, untrustworthy, maybe unprofessional. Don't even be surprised when your drink order is wrong because they changed the recipes. A brand guide would prevent this kind of dissonance by ensuring every touch point speaks the same language, visually and emotionally. Now imagine walking into a Best Buy with poppy music playing on the overheads, techie youths running around in blue shirts and black pants, yellow print on every tag, and an aisle system that allows you to see just about everything in the store. It's a symphony of intentional design that leads to a more settling experience. That's why old people feel comfortable enough buying laptops there, even though they don't know how it works. With a brand guide, every piece of your business works together to tell a cohesive story, increasing your brand recognition and making your vibes impossible to ignore. Next up, out-of-the-box concepts. Don't dig on them. Great branding doesn't mean playing it safe. It means taking calculated risks that make your materials more memorable. Take my brochures, for example, back in 2017. They were a bifold roughly the size of an average piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. With a whole lot of text, functional and informative, sure, the way our identity would prefer even, but honestly, forgettable. We didn't book a lot of leads because of how well they looked. And because we had so much to say, fonts were small and light, and the format was busy. Plus, our budget dictated that we printed on thin paper, which was prone to ripping like an old pair of jeans during an ambitious squat. But now, woo, boy, let me tell you, now they're 5 inches by 21 inches. About the same dimensions as 2-foot-long Subway sandwiches next to each other. And I know that low-key sounds a little inconvenient, but since it's a trifold, it folds neatly and compacts into a 5 by 7. Plus, now that we know everything we want to say, we also know what we don't, so we don't have to fill the pages with so much text, leading to a better font treatment, a cleaner layout, and more straightforward writing. It's even printed on sturdy paper, so it feels good in my hands and lasts a long time in a drawer. Even my business cards have been refreshed. Before, the front had a stunning mountain range casted in an orange glow behind my strong white logo, and a back with my contact information. It worked, right? Don't get me wrong, it did its job. I've actually received a lot of compliments on those cards, but I still feel like I could do better. So the rework kept the mountain range on the front, as it was the most complimented aspect of the card, but the contact information also appears on the front, which gives me the opportunity to transform the back into something more valuable and beneficial to the holder. Now, the back contains custom-catered pro tips in order to provide value regardless of whether or not I'm hired. For couples getting married, the advice is a guide to working with event vendors, right? I want to facilitate a smoother experience. And for my commercial clients, the advice is full of statistics to prove that my services are worthy because video content sells. It's a good investment. And not to repeat myself, but it's printed on sturdy paper so it feels good in your hands and lasts a long time in a drawer. When people ask me why I make my business cards this way, a way that's just a little different than everyone else's, my answer is really simple. So simple, in fact, that it's pretty easily rehearsed. Regardless of whether or not they contact me, I don't want them to throw my card away, right? I want them to tape it to their computer or give it to someone else. By providing value upfront in all of my marketing materials, I'm branding myself as a valuable person to keep around. Out of the box. Lastly, let's talk about the contact info and calls to action that all of you need. And this is where so many brands drop the ball, because contact details need to be easy. Easy! Whoa, take it easy. No, make it easy! Make it easy to spell, easy to say, easy to remember. Invest in a custom email domain like Ethan at Northern Oak Media, because that has a lot more credibility than ehammer456 at Yahoo. And the same goes for your website domain. Keep it clean and professional, right? Like northernoakmedia.com, not account.squarespace.net/ehammer456-website-free. And for the love of all things digital, use a QR code. They're simple to generate, and they make it easy for clients to find your website, your portfolio, or your booking page with a single scan. No typing. Means no typos. Just point and click. As any marketing expert can attest, fewer clicks result in more conversions. So do yourself a favor and use QR codes. Be cautious of scams, because if your QR code expires, that's not a good sign. Unless you're looking to heavily track your analytics, QR codes are always free. In a nutshell, your contact info and your calls to action are more than just details. They're a critical part of establishing yourself as a serious business. If a potential client even gets one whiff of unprofessionalism or complication, they're going to poof before your eyes, no matter how great you are. Clean, straightforward contact details signal that you're running a legitimate, credible operation. And that's what you want, right? In the end, branding is about creating a lasting impression, and that's not something you can afford to leave to chance. It's not enough to just look the part. You've got to make it easy for people you're engaging with by removing all points of friction. If it's hard to read, adjust it. If it's hard to understand, rewrite it. If it's hard to follow, make it easier. Every detail matters, because in a world flooded with choices, your brand needs to be the one that people naturally gravitate toward. So stick to the fundamentals, because they work. And sure, you can hit a nail in a wall with a drill, but a hammer tends to work best. Thanks for listening. Thank you for walking the Backroad with me. I've been Ethan Levesque, here to help you accomplish your business, marketing, and creative goals. The end of this journey has come, but with 33 episodes behind us and many more ahead of us, there's still plenty to learn. By the time this podcast airs, the Bangor wedding show will have come and gone. But if you're getting married, or if you know someone else who is, and you/they are still looking for a photo or a video vendor, we'd love to help you preserve your most unforgettable moments. Learn more about our services at northernoakmemories.com. Don't forget to follow the Mainah Man on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you have any questions regarding your brand, reach out to me directly, Ethan at northernoakmedia.com. I'm going to have to fix this script, actually, because TikTok is still here. You can find me on TikTok, too. Catch new episodes of The Backroad every other Wednesday at noon, wherever podcasts are found. And remember, you can get there from here. Okay, I guess this is the recording we're going with, because for some reason my recording button isn't... Hey, Kyle, I'm going to need a couple minutes.